Hello and welcome back to the Quick Slant on Green Bay Packer Nation and greenbaypackernation.com. We're standing here on the cusp of June, which means that we are getting ever so much closer to the start of another Packers season, so hang in there. There's a lot of players we're going to be talking about as we get closer to the preseason, but today I want to talk about DeShone Kizer because I think he's got some potential that he hasn't had a chance to show yet, so that's what we're going to discuss today on this episode of the Quick Slant. Before we get started, as always, if you're new here, tap that subscribe button. We'd love to have you subscribe and hit the bell notification so you get notified whenever we post a new video to our channel. So let's talk about DeShone Kizer because I'm going to be watching him closely in this preseason to see whether he has more potential than he seemed to display at Cleveland, and I think he does. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, he was a rookie last season, got thrown into a starting role as a rookie, and there just really aren't a lot of quarterbacks that hit the NFL that are ready to hit the ground running, so to speak. Most rookie quarterbacks, the game is still far too fast for them, and they need a season or two to start, for their brains to start really catching up to the speed of the game. And when you're thrown in the mix as a rookie quarterback, you just don't have time for that to develop. It just isn't going to happen that quickly for most quarterbacks. There are a few quarterbacks in the league that have no problem with the speed of the game, but they are an elite group. So I think that was a problem for DeShone. The game was still a little too fast for him, and now that he'll have a chance to develop under Aaron Rodgers, we should see improvement over his tenure with the Cleveland Browns. I also think that Kizer just didn't have very much to work with in Cleveland. When the Packers played Cleveland last season, one of the things we discussed as we prepared for that game was, who are the Cleveland receivers? We knew that Josh Gordon was going to be back after a long hiatus from football, but besides Josh Gordon, we kept asking the question, well, name the next few receivers on the Cleveland Browns, and nobody could really name them. Now, he did have Jarvis Landry to throw to, and other than that, the depth chart at wide receiver, there just was not a lot of talent. In light of that, Kizer had almost as good a completion percentage as Brett Hundley had last season, and Brett had guys like Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson to throw to, among others who were not too shabby, even though they were deeper down in the depth chart. So I think the fact that Kizer had nearly as good a completion percentage as Hundley and didn't have the wide receivers that Hundley had, I think says something about his ability as a quarterback. Certainly, there were times when Adams was open, when Nelson was open, when Cobb was open, that Hundley just didn't see those guys. And I think we probably would see a higher completion percentage out of Kizer were he able to throw to guys the caliber of a Nelson, an Adams, or a Cobb, which he will, of course, have that opportunity in Green Bay. The other thing that I kind of looked into that I wanted to know about Kizer is rookie quarterbacks, a lot of times they're throwing a lot of dump-off passes, a lot of stuff to the checkdowns because they're just really overly cautious about trying downfield. Kizer had a lot of interceptions, but I think that's because he knew he just had to take his shots downfield, and he didn't have the luxury of being the kind of quarterback that can toss to the check down, manage a couple of games, maybe eke out a couple of wins until the starter gets back on the field. He knew that he was it, and he just had to play like he was it. So I think that caused a lot of interceptions, but his yards per attempt was around I think it was 8.7, which is really right in there with Aaron Rodgers. If you look at Aaron Rodgers' stats over the course of his career, he did have one season where his average was 11 yards, but really for the most part, he's right around there in that mid-8 to mid-9 range. So Kizer is not that far off of that, which to me means that he's willing to take a risk and throw it downfield. He's not afraid to take a shot downfield, and I don't think he's taking really deep shots, because I don't think until Gordon got back on the field, I don't think he really had anybody that was that much of a deep threat. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this preseason as we get a chance to see DeShone Kizer. Hopefully, we'll see more improvement than we saw in Brett Hundley. I was kind of sad about the fact that Brett just couldn't seem to develop and make a statement for himself as a potential starting quarterback somewhere in the league. But DeShone Kizer is going to have his opportunity to do so. I am going to drop a poll up here because I want to know what you think about DeShone Kizer's his potential. I want to know if you think, yes, he has a lot of potential that just was not shown in Cleveland, or no, you really don't think that he has that much potential. He probably is what he was in Cleveland. So definitely let us know what you think in the comments below, because we want to have a conversation with you guys. And until next time, go Pack.